last poem for the second session, last poet for the second session is another dear friend, Elisa Corona Aguilar, who is a Mexican writer, translator, composer, and guitarist. She actually is now Dr. Elisa Corona Aguilar because she has a doctorate in musicology. She's also an MFA. She writes poetry, composes music, writes musical studies, and so whole lot of stuff, and is a translator as well. Again, her biography too can be accessed through the link provided in chat. Alyssa, please come to the screen and present your poems.
Thank you so much for inviting me again. And it's great to see familiar faces here. I also have a little bit of a panic attack, like some of the poets that have mentioned. Sometimes it's difficult to share, and but I was happy, to gather some of the poems, and I'll read them in Spanish first, and then in a very improvised translation. This series of poems is called Ariadna in the Labyrinth, Ariadna en el Laberinto. Contar las calles, los pasos, las linternas, el inhóspito cruce de sombras que recuerda multitudes perdidas, paseo nocturno de alas veloces, árboles color fango y un aroma de partida express. Recuerdo el sonar de una alerta, un cantar de bocinas de autos. Pedí tus coordenadas para confirmar que estaba cerca. Contar las calles, los pasos, las linternas, los gatos en las ventanas de la hora, los autos azul cielo y los días que me faltan para orientarnos juntos al llamado de una misma voz. Mi ábaco se rompe intentando recalibrar otras latitudes del mundo. Nuestro encuentro, una acertada caminata sin medida. Senderos distintos nos esperan. And the translation. To count the streets, the steps, the lanterns, and the inhospitable crossing of shadows that reminds you of lost multitudes. A nocturnal walk made of fast wings, of trees the color of mud, and the smell of rushed departures. I remember the sound of an alert, the singing of car horns. I asked for your coordinates to confirm that you were near me. Counting the streets, the steps, the flashlights, the cats in the windows of the now, the sky blue cars, and the days I have left behind, to orient ourselves together at the same call of the voice. My abacus breaks trying to recalibrate other latitudes of the world. Our encounter, a successful walk without measure. Different paths are waiting ahead of us. Number 2. Nuestra trayectoria se impuso al viaje solitario. Ariadna entra en el laberinto. El propósito es quedarnos al centro en esta morada compartida. Nos rodean muros al son del derrumbe, asfalto desencajado entre raíces fieras, y el grito de las multitudes nos cerca el horizonte. Han pasado los años, han nacido nuevos castillos de aire. Tú y yo miramos al frente para no develar que nuestras diferencias son mínimas en el espejo de la hora. The translation, number 2. Our path joineth prevailed over the solitary journey. Ariadna enters the labyrinth. The purpose is to remain at the center of this shared dwelling. Walls surround us to the sound of crumbling asphalt, dislocated between fierce roots and the cries of the crowds. The horizon closes in on us. Years have passed, new castles in the air have been born. You and I look ahead so as not to reveal that our differences are minimal in the mirror of the here and now. And number 3, encontrarte significó reescribir mitologías, otorgarte el poder del acertijo y volver espuma a la tragedia. Nuestra complicidad lo sondea todo, monta las olas sin estrellarse en el risco. Vimos a los pescadores saciarse antes que nada picara. Esquivamos adolescentes con su rebeldía a cuestas. Nos sonrieron al sospechar que ese paseo nocturno era también conspiración. Las luces fueron y vinieron. La firmeza de tus pasos limpió la calle y junto a ti mi esperanza no volvió a tropezar. The translation. To find you meant to rewrite mythologies, to grant you the power of the riddle, and to turn tragedy into foam. Our complicity proves everything, rides the waves without crashing on the cliff. We saw the fishermen satiate themselves before anything else could bite. We dodged teenagers with their rebellion in tow. They smiled at us when they suspected that our nighttime walk was also a conspiracy. The lights came and went, the firmness of your steps cleared the streets, and while after walking with you next to me, my hope never stumbled again. Thank
So
you.
we have one last poet for this session, actually, who we missed in her place, in her spot on the lineup. It's our own Libby Klein from Agnes Scott College. She is a second-year women, gender, and sexuality studies major at Agnes Scott, who hopes to attend law school in the future. She is passionate about disability rights, fiber rights, and humanitarian justice, healthcare equity, all the things that I think are so valuable that we need to be concerned about them. I'll uh, invite her, because she's here in person, to come here in person and present her poems. So this is the first in-person, right, presentation of poetry reading we are having for today's event. Please, Libby, take the stage. I think you'll just speak.
So the poem I will be reading today, I wrote it last year for a poetry class that I was in, and it has since been revised a lot. And yeah, it's about my experience both having and the process of being diagnosed with my chronic pain condition. It is called Doctor Who Bore Me. A young woman came in today. She told me her bones were made of rubber. She told me she ached. She told me she'd given up. She told me she was built wrong. A young woman came in today. I told her I was sorry. I told her I was listening, not only to rusted joints, but to her. I told her it's not okay. I told her I cared and that I was going to build her a new soul. A young woman came in today. She gave me her arm, which glowed green and purple. She watched her elbow lie to me, masquerading as the Cheshire cat. She moved her spine with a creak. She said it was a rattlesnake lovingly gifted to her by her father. A young woman came in today. I told her I hear her. I told her I know. I told her to keep going. She told me she hated doctors. I told her I hated them too. A young woman came in today. She told me she was in pain. She told me it had been years of hurt and disgust. She told me she'd lost hope and she wanted to break those bones, the ones that were killing her. I went to the doctor today. He listened to me, he believed me, he gave me language, and he saved my life.
So we have a wonderful first-time presenter to start, and a remarkable poet, anthologist, actually, and filmmaker. Dr. Nishi Chawla is an academic, a writer, and a filmmaker. She has published 10 plays, 3 novels, and 8 collections of poetry. She has also written and directed 4 award-winning art house feature films. You'll get a lot more about her biographical details in well, if you go to the chat feature and click on the link, it'll take you to the biography of Dr. Nishi Chawla as well. As I said earlier, I'll be reading only a very brief part of the biographies that I have with me for the presenters. So, Dr. Chawla, please, could you come to the screen and give your presentation?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Vikas, for your introduction. I'll read from my, can you hear me? I'll read from my my eighth poetry collection, Indigenized slash Tribalized, which explores indigenous voices, erased histories, and the strength of cultural memory. Poems that honor resilience, confront displacement, and seek to restore the silenced dialogue between people and the land. My poetry tries to use natural imagery, earth, rivers, forests, mountains, as a living archive of indigenous presence. These are not metaphors, but embodiments of ancestral memories. The first poem reads, it's titled The Cartographers of Loss. They map the land with footsteps, names unbroken like river veins, whispering syllables of rain and bone, until the ink of conquest rewrote the sky. First they came with questions, their voices clothed in barter, measuring the land in lengths of greed, asking where the forests ended, where the minerals bled from stone. Then they came with answers, fences driven into the ribs of earth, the air weighted with deeds and borders, as if paper could hold back the wind. The cedar split, the buffalo fell, the salt of the sea was christened with new names. In the red dust of Australia, a mother clutched the absence of her child taken, renamed, reshaped in the mouth of empire. In the Amazon, an elder walked into a jungle he no longer knew, where the trees wore numbers instead of spirits. On the tundra, the caribou changed their path, searching for a world before fences. In the forests of Jharkhand, the Santal woman ran her fingers along the earth's pulse. But where the sal trees once stood, now only chimneys coughed up smoke. In Bastar, the gaunt hunter traced his grandfather's bow, but the iron mines had swallowed the paths of his ancestors. The Narmada carried their songs once until the dam silenced its voice, leaving villages drowned in mouths of progress. Across the ocean, the Cherokee walked, a trail of tears across their own land, their footprints vanishing under treaties that tasted of dust and betrayal. The Lakota prayed at Wounded Knee, where the wind still howled with the voices of the fallen. The Dine wove their stories into rugs, patterns of resistance hidden in the warp and weft of exile. And what of the songs? They curled at the edges like burning hide, pounded into silence beneath schoolyard desks, buried under church steeples, that rang with another God's voice. Children were taught to say their own names as if apologizing. Everywhere the rivers were forced backward, the earth stitched with pipelines and rails, the sky cleaved by turbines that did not know the language of winds. Yet the elders still touched the ground, listening for the heartbeat beneath. They hold stories in their hands, cupped like water, offering the past to mouths too young to remember their own echoes. To be displaced is to be unthreaded, yet the hands that wove the first baskets still carry memory in their palms. The cedar will regrow. The buffalo will return. The river, unchained, will remember its name. They cannot steal the footsteps. They cannot silence the earth. Even the wind, unsettled, still speaks in the old tongue. In my next poem, I trace the arc from harmony with land to dispossession and erasure. The poem speaks broadly for indigenous peoples across geographies. It's universal, though some readers might wish for more, I think specificity, like a tribe, a ritual, a place that would ground the piece in lived reality, of course, but in its current form, it emphasizes the shared indigenous struggle worldwide. That's what my collection of poetry, my 8th collection of poetry is. The title is Indigenous Poem. They walk where the earth speaks in a language older than wind, where rivers braid their voices with the sorrow of forests, where mountains wear shadows like ancestral cloaks. They walk in the margins, a world that has forgotten how to listen. Once their feet pressed the soil with a knowing deeper than maps, charting paths by constellations, bird calls, rustling leaves. Then the cities rose, metal spines piercing lands, tender flesh, ambition severing root from earth. Now they dwell at the edges, behind fences of law and disdain. Their histories spill into forgotten dialects, stories the modern tongue cannot shape. They carry their homes in their bones, homes that exist in the smoke rings of memory. The world calls them relics, treasures locked behind glass, lessons buried in books written by hands that have never held displacement. Yet they remain rivers that refuse to dry, seeds cast on soil that denies them water. They sing against silence, dance in defiance of forgetting. Their grief repackaged, art sold as trinkets. Their suffering archived as if colonization ended with the last treaty signed. And yet they endure, carving existence from stone, weaving baskets from dreams that refuse to fray. They summon the names of spirits modern tongues have lost. They teach their children to listen to the earth, even as bulldozers muffle its voice. Their struggles are not metaphors. They are the ache in the land's backbone, the howl of wolves displaced by concrete, the hunger of a people fighting erasure with fire in their eyes. They walk where the earth still whispers, even as the wind carries the noise of a world that will not see them. They walk where roots hold the past, where every step is both a prayer for what remains and a cry for what has been lost. My last poem is The Dismantling. A language unspoken does not die. It frays in the mouth of a child who answers in the language of the school, in the silence of a grandmother who understands but no longer teaches, a name sanded down for convenience, no longer fits the curve of land it once belonged. It is filed away, archived in census records, written but not spoken. Hands that once carved stories into stone now press buttons, fill forms, sign away parcels of land for something called opportunity. A river bends itself. A river bends itself toward what is left of itself. A river bends toward what is left of itself, carrying a name that no longer belongs to it. Tourists kneel at its edge, take pictures of the reflection, without asking what was lost beneath the surface. They built museums for what still breathes, turn history into artifacts, safety glass between the past and the present. Somewhere a fire burns low. In a village that no longer knows its borders, the smoke, heavy with unfamiliar oils, blends with the blueless sky, a symbol no one remembers how to read. Outside, the wind calls in the old way. No one answers. Thank you.
He's a Black queer poet with roots in Missouri and Arkansas. They learned the power of words through their grandmother, who often said, "You have to be able to name a demon to cast them out." So I will let you do that here. Please come to the mic and present your poems.
Can everyone hear me online? Okay, perfect. Okay. My name is Dominic Anthony. I'm a poet based here in Atlanta from Arkansas. If you guys like what you hear, you can follow me on Instagram, Tony the Poet. That's Tony with I. So when I was choosing my poems today, I was just kind of meditating on the theme of change. And I also wanted to realize that Assata Shakur had just passed on the same day as Bell Hooks' birthday, or what would have been Bell Hooks' birthday. So I was just meditating on transnational activism and like love and loss, and as a Black American in solidarity with occupied people across the world in Sudan, Congo, and Gaza. And also, a fun fact is Assata Shakur's nephew and godson is Tupac, who died by gun violence. So all those relate to my poems that I'm going to present today. So the first one is called Birthing Babies. Birthing babies. I fell into this world through the belly of a child. At summer's end, as the cotton bloomed and the city chilled, she, swollen ankles and acne, paused between rusting lockers, knocking my foot from her long. The smell of lead and the filleting sound of scuffed rubber could not dampen the stares. Her breath, light and anxious, her fingers tracing the outline of a belly too swollen to hide underneath sweaters. Regret would sputum itself on the back of her tongue, sour than a morning sick. But making something was the first time in 15 years of living her body felt like hers. So she kept it. To bring something into being amidst all that judgment, she took the shame, siphoned it from the placenta, made it into the best love she knew how, discarded the rest, called it afterbirth, and once the grown man between her legs, this one invited, finished pulling me out of her, she sat squatting, gown open, revealing the raw and swollen slinking off a rangy frame. It made a splatter she hoped would drown out the whispers of nurses about the child mother. Poor, pretty little thing. Her or the baby, she still does not know. But a hospital bed was better than a toilet in a school gymnasium, so she gathered her spill parts off the mint green floor. Birthing babies has always been tiring work, though children are resilient. Before the blood on her thighs had even dried, she was up cribside, uttering a phrase that made her giggle. She had only ever said it while playing just the summer before. I'll be the mama. Thank you guys. That was, a little bit autobiographical. I was born to children, and when children have children, something has gone terribly wrong, right? And we don't really talk about it in America. We talk about like child brides all across the rest of the world, but children and women and baby girls are vulnerable here in America as well. So the next one is I brought up Tupac Shakur, who died by gun violence, and this one was written about my brother, who I almost lost last summer to gun violence. My mother, one of the lucky ones, guardian of an almost dead son. Bullets missed him, graced of a butterfly wings flap, landing in the chest of some other woman's almost alive son. Wailing that almost was curdled, or wailing of what almost curdles my skin, leaves it to boil, all Look what they've done to my boy. They, us, tied down by a masculinity so heavy it requires blood to cement. Lead through bone. Summertime tunes turn into fumes. A song of Solomon prayed in the delta heat. Lay his body to rest in the swamp. Poor mother of the almost living boy. How many sons must she give to summer nights, short but deadly, with hungry moons that rise the tides and lift the souls of mostly dead boys? All right. And then this last one is when I was thinking about bell hooks. And, bell hooks is known for teaching us how to love. So this one it's called Where the Catfish Burrow. It's about Black queer love, Black queer Southern love specifically. Press the softest parts of your lips against my sunburned shoulders. We are sky-singed, velvet-skinned men, brave enough to cock our hips, limp gristle, wrists flung forward, 2 fingers dipped in a Vaseline jar. Love me joyful, with this fat sucked from dinosaur bones. You say, too much has ended to not be where our feet are. I say, nothing starts unless we let our minds wander. So meet me in the middle with a fast heart and slow hands. That is the only way to love a boy as soft as Mississippi mud. Remember, when sun-dried riverbeds appear barren, dig where the catfish burrow, and we will find water again. All right. Thank you guys so much.